And once again, it is time for the BitMart BrainTrust here on NFT 101. For some reason, once again, I am your host, Matt Ryan, and I am joined, as always, by two of the smartest people in any room they walk into. First and foremost, it is the man who loves the Spurs and is wearing the same shirt I am. It's Kelechi Ibe. And joining us from somewhere in the mountains is Nathan Simone. And we have someone joining us from another mountainous region. Joining us all the way from Switzerland, it is Patrick Tobler. Kelechi, you know Patrick, you set up this conversation. How about you lay a little bit of the groundwork for us?
Yeah, man, I've been such a huge fan of Patrick. Patrick is the founder of NFT Maker, one of the most important platforms in the entire Cardano ecosystem. It's a platform where you can, mint NFTs, and I'm gonna allow Patrick talk more about that. But I met Patrick at Consensus, and for the first time. And, we just got to meet each other. I think Patrick was so surprised to see how tall I was. And he was like, oh, my God. He's like, you're so tall. I get that all the time. But yeah, Patrick is one of the most influential people in the Cardano ecosystem. And I'm just so glad, to have him join us today. So, Patrick, thanks for coming up.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and for that nice intro. Meeting at Consensus was really interesting. Just in general, meeting you and so many other people, like you always see the avatars, and then suddenly, there's this giant in your case coming at you, which was just incredible. Honestly, it's just so nice to meet the faces behind the avatar.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Patrick. I actually met Kelechi for the first time also at Consensus because we were roommates in a hotel. And when I saw him, I had the exact same thought process. But luckily, he's an amazing guy. And he's actually the one who got me into Cardano. I'd known about Cardano for many, many years. And just unfortunately, really just never dug down the rabbit hole. And so now I am a recent Cardano convert. And we like to say that Kelechi is the OG, I'm the new one. And then Matt is actually a neophyte to crypto in general. Matt's only like a few months into crypto, whereas I'm years. Kelechi is years as well. So we've got a really interesting dynamic going in on this show where some people know more about things than others. Some people know nothing at all. And, I've seen the light on Cardano. So that's all I wanted to put through there. So we're just super excited to have you because we're so bullish on Cardano in so many ways, not just cultural, but technical and all that sort of stuff, that having a kind of expert like yourself, I know it's going to be a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I think that's very interesting that all of you have like different life cycles in the crypto space so far.
Yeah.
I just ended up here one day. Like I was just wandering around the world and ended up, here's the thing. They're not non-fungible who's it's, the token what's it's. And I just kind of ended up here, and I guide the conversation. But we were talking about meeting people at Consensus. We were just talking about NFT, like meeting people in person. I was just at NFT NYC, and I have to say, like, when you're looking at the culture of NFTs, everything is so predicated on community. And Patrick, I don't know your journey in NFTs, but what has been your experience meeting people inside and outside of the non-fungible universe? You talked about like there are people that were just an avatar on a screen, that were just basically these cartoon characters or these photos that really didn't exist in the world. What is it like to make a real connection, meeting Kelechi or meeting other people while you're working on your project? Because it can feel like when you're working on something and you're the owner and the creator of a project and you're trying to focus and drive and kind of grind into creating something, it can be a bit lonely, a bit isolating. So how do you function with that back and forth of it all?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it there. It's very isolating if you, especially now with COVID, we were all just sitting at home watching the charts go up and go down and then building stuff. And, the reality is NFT Maker has grown like so quickly and has minted so many NFTs and enabled so many artists. And you can't really grasp that if you don't talk to these people. Like if I'm on Twitter, I see I have a lot of followers and stuff, but those are just numbers on a screen, right? But if you meet the people and you actually get to talk with them, and then they tell you, oh, I made this random NFT collection that sometimes I haven't even heard of, right? And they used NFT Maker, and they were able to create a living because of me or because of NFT Maker in a way that is just the most satisfying thing ever, because you just see, okay, my work is really impacting real people out there, not just avatars. Those aren't just bots. And I think that is just extremely eye-opening. So it's very important to have like these gatherings and just meet the people sometimes from time to time, and then also be inspired and go back. I couldn't wait, even though it was amazing meeting all these people. I couldn't wait to come back here to Zurich, just to sit down and focus and build, and then in a few months I go to the next one and I'll just be inspired again. It's kind of like this cycle.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's like just speaking about how you've impacted the lives of a lot of people. I'm one of those people. Obviously, I've not yet launched my NFT collection on Ghost Chain NFT Club, but just working with our developers, like they really love NFT Maker. How easy it is to use. It's like so simple for them to use. Like the APIs and everything is just so easy for them to use. And yeah, and like I think NFT Maker has I think you guys have minted over 50% of all the NFTs in Cardano or something crazy like that.
Not quite 50% of all the NFTs, but we made almost 50% of all the policy IDs, which means basically 50% of all the collections,
right?
Which I'm extremely proud about, because it means that we onboarded like the majority of artists into the space, and we made like 23 or 4 or 2, I don't know, percent of all the NFTs. So over 1.2 million NFTs at this point.
That is just crazy.
It's crazy.
That's an insane number.
Yeah, I mean, you guys see why I needed to bring Patrick here, because I think Cardano would not be as like, I think when NFT came into the scene for Cardano, that's when people started really paying attention to Cardano, and like Patrick was kind of one of the launch pad to make all that happen. So I really needed to bring him to the show to represent Cardano as we talk about Cardano NFTs and things like that. He's like the perfect person to help us.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Nathan, but Patrick, we just need to preface, Kelechi has been, and Nathan, you can attest to this, the biggest apostolate for Cardano I've come across. But Nathan, if you have a question, please go ahead.
Well, I just want to maybe preface this with you, Patrick, is that, I'm, like I said, I'm a recent Cardano convert, and it's because of Kelechi. My brother was actually the one who had told me about Cardano for years, and he had studied a little bit more. And I think it was something that was just not on my radar enough, because like me and Kelechi joke, people still think of it as it's always called a ghost chain, even though it's the 7th on CoinMarketCap right now. Like, people don't bring it up. And so like, I'm willing to bet that there's going to be people that watch this video and they're still going to want to know. They're just like, oh, Cardano, like I hear the name, but they're just not going to dig into it. And I'd love it if you could provide like your best summation of why Cardano is so amazing, why it's so unique, and why you should pay attention to it. Like, it doesn't have to be that long, but
sure.
If you spread the good word of Cardano and why it's so like revolutionary.
Yeah, so first of all, I think it's great, Kelechi, that you're converting everyone here. That's what you need to do. Bring them over to the Cardano side. But yeah, so I think Cardano is quite interesting in the space, because Cardano is often kind of seen as the outsider in a way, and it is. A lot of people on other chains are kind of saying, yeah, all this ghost chain stuff, and are kind of looking down on Cardano, and it's not really part of the cool kids club in a way. And I think the reason for that is that Cardano has taken a very, very different approach to just developing the protocol in general. I mean, essentially, Cardano is extremely slow, but also extremely rigorous in its development, in the way it's developed. So every single feature, every single protocol change, it was all scientifically tested and proven before, and researched before, and then it was implemented into Haskell, a very scientific and difficult functional programming language. And it all takes so much time. But because of this, because it was developed in such a way, it is building on a super robust foundation. That's kind of the thing. Cardano is focusing on this foundation. And that is interesting because that's kind of the same as Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is strong because the foundation is strong. Bitcoin will never change. It doesn't have a lot of changes had in the past, but that's exactly what makes Bitcoin successful. And then there are other chains, and those other chains are often developed in a Silicon Valley kind of fashion. So they build fast and break things fast. And that is very interesting, especially for applications. But it might not be the ideal thing to do when you want to build a global decentralized financial infrastructure. So I think the people that have stuck with Cardano over all these years are the ones which are patient and really want to see the change, and not necessarily the people that just want to make a very quick buck, because that's not Cardano. Cardano is not very VC focused, not really hype focused, anything like that. And now we're finally getting to this point where applications are actually possible on Cardano. It has taken a long time, but now with NFTs and then smart contracts and everything else that came in the last few years, we see, okay, maybe Cardano is really right with their approach, because on the other chains, we see so many issues. Like Ethereum is almost unusable. Solana is going down every few weeks. Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts, of course, and there are many others, and they all struggle in a way. And Cardano is not struggling at the moment, which is very surprising to many people. Not surprising to me, and not surprising to Kelechi, of course. But that's kind of what I love about Cardano, that it's trying to do things right from the get-go. And sorry, that was a lot longer than a short sentence.
No, that's exactly what we wanted.
It's perfect. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is the thing that got me is, because I've been a big Bitcoin guy for a while, is when Kelechi said, well, you know how Bitcoin uses the UTXO model. Cardano just uses an extended UTXO model. He's like, it's basically Bitcoin. It's robust as Bitcoin, but it has smart contracts. And I was like, mind equals blown all over. And then once I went down, and then once he got me on jpeg.store and I started using the NFTs, and you can send, I've sent NFTs on OpenSea, and I see the Ethereum gas fees. I see all the downsides. And when there were none of the downsides and it was quick and it was seamless, I was just like, oh my gosh, I should have gotten into this 2-3 years ago. And then you read all about Charles Hoskinson, about 10,000 papers, and they're researched and it's academic. And you're like, I feel like Cardano is a house on a street, and from the outside, it looks just like a regular house. And nobody knows that if you just open the door, it's got like a bowling alley, a swimming pool, there's a party going on. You're like, and the house is never going to fall down because the person who built this took like just 10 years to build the foundation. And so it's such an interesting and exciting project that I'm glad that it's getting the recognition it deserves now, but I feel a little bit like I'm in a cool kids club where like I know about this amazing thing, and it's still not like in the mainstream yet. So like I'm very bullish on both the technology, the price, the usability, just everything about it. So,
and I like this house analogy. I mean, you're all Americans, right?
Yes,
allegedly.
Yeah. Okay, so the thing is,
except me, I'm West African, but go ahead.
Okay, okay, but the thing is, as Europeans, we and especially as Germans, we often joke about American houses being a little bit like cardboard, and they all look extremely fancy, but there are hurricanes and stuff, and then they just fall over.
Sure.
And in Europe, like all the walls are made of like super heavy concrete and stuff like that, and it feels like that's kind of the same thing with Cardano. There might be flashier houses out there, but then when the storm hits, Cardano is going to be the only one standing because it's the only one with the robust foundation. And no offense, America. That's
no offense taken.
European things.
This is just such a important thing to talk about, like how Cardano always like took the right approach. And whenever you hear like Charles Hoskinson just talking about Cardano, I mean, I just always struggle. Like, why do people like hate this guy so much? Like, he's trying to build something that has a solid foundation, and something where it goes through those peer reviewed, and they only release something when they know it will work and it will not like have a lot of issues. And to Patrick's points, like when you're trying to build a global decentralized like you know you know platform that could provide a lot of freedom to a lot of people from developing countries and even developed countries. You want to build it right. You don't want to build it so it breaks. You don't want to build it so it's centralized too much to where, okay, we're back to the old system. So it's just I never understood that part. But once you start like understanding the mission behind what Cardano is trying to do, and once you start using the tools and you start using the smart contract, you maintain NFTs, it's very fast. You can send like multiple transactions for very, very low fees. Like everything just works. And like I've noticed like all the FUD and all the kind of people who always make fun of Cardano, that voice is starting to go away. I don't know if you've noticed it, Patrick, like on Twitter, like people who fought Cardano is like it's starting to die away because like the proof is starting to show right now.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit at least. I mean, we see all the things happening in the crypto space, and every single, as I mentioned, every single major protocol is struggling at the moment. We see all these like hacks, and we see so many big issues, and as I mentioned, Solana going down and Ethereum struggling so hard with trying to scale up and getting to proof of stake, and then there's Cardano, and Cardano is just there and doesn't make any problems, and is just slowly grinding away and getting better and better and better. And it will take more time to get to the stage where we really can see it as a global financial decentralized ecosystem or operating system in a way. But the path is there, and you can see it if you really watch, and if you see like everything else falling apart, and then Cardano is still standing and Bitcoin is still standing. Those are probably the only two at the moment which are really stable in a way from a technology standpoint, in my opinion. Then that just shows all the haters and shows everyone else that Cardano is here to stay, and Cardano is really something.
Now, as an outsider in the room, it feels like to me, and this is kind of a double-layered thing, Cardano feels like when you took a look at operating systems in the 90s and 2000s, you had Mac versus PC, but there was always Linux in the background that was open source, that was able to kind of take some of the best parts of both Mac and PC, but it was very technology focused. You needed to be a computer person. You needed to understand the guts of what you were working on to truly understand the power of it. And it feels like that with Cardano. And also, crypto is about holding, but there are a lot of people who get into the crypto and NFT spaces for expediency, like the concept of day traders. And I think that that's one of the reasons why people up until now have been not as bullish on Cardano as on other blockchains, because you take a look at the culture of immediacy. And that's something that's big in finance in general. What's the next big thing? What's the next hot trend? What's the next thing you can dive into? And when you present Hoskinson in his 10,000 papers, and you're like, you have to be so fractional, and it's a rejection of that, because you see that too across culture. You see that like people don't want to wait for something. They don't want to wait on a trend. They want to get in the trend. They want to be a part of what's hip now. They want to be the early adopters because they want to be on the thing now. How do you, and this is a question for all of you guys, how do you battle against that on a daily basis on a platform where something can turn on a dime, even less than a dime? It can turn on the thread of a needle almost immediately and cause a massive disruption in the market. How do you stay away from that, and how do you rise above?
That is a very difficult question, and it's extremely hard to answer because
it's what I'm good at. Asking really hard questions on a show where you want answers. That's me.
That's great. That's great. No, so the thing is, I think we see this very clearly in the NFT space, and with the rise of NFTs on Cardano. So Cardano in the past was very much focused on people that are actually interested in this technology, in reading these papers, and in all the early stake pool operators. And it was a very small crowd in a way. And then once the NFTs came to Cardano, we saw very much that the whole crowd and the whole like community on Cardano shifted away from that a little bit, shifted way more into this like hype focused community that we see in many other coins and in cryptocurrencies in general. I mean, cryptocurrencies are often dominated by coins like Dogecoin and Shiba Inu, and of course, the whole NFT scene in general is just a testament to that, with all the apes and all these collectibles and the flipping and all this kind of stuff. And that is all great, and a good proof of concept for the technology. And even some of the NFT communities are really amazing what they've built and what they are creating. It's really a tool to allow creators to do stuff. But it's not necessarily what crypto is about. Crypto is not about holding, in my opinion. Crypto is also not about speculating. Crypto is about building tools that give access to a system that is global and fair to everyone. And no matter who you are, if you're a billionaire, you use the same tools and the same system in the same way as if you're a poor person somewhere else. And that is what Cardano is trying to achieve. And I think it's very important that we never lose that out of our vision. Like, even with all the NFTs, even with all the hype, like the hype will come and go, and there will be DAOs on Cardano. There will be all these different things which have hype cycles. There's going to be gaming, and all that is cool. But the idea is really just to make the financial ecosystem more accessible to everyone. That is the main idea. And as long as we have strong people in the community, like Charles Hoskinson, who is clearly like a thought leader, we are aiming towards that goal. But I do sometimes see that we are led too much by the hype, and that maybe a portion of the community doesn't understand like where we're going. And I see that in every cryptocurrency. I mean, Bitcoin, that was the goal of Bitcoin as well, and it has shifted a lot over the past. And with Ethereum, the same thing. And now, the most famous influencers in the space, if you want to call them like that, it aren't people like Andreas Antonopoulos anymore, or people who really, really get it, but instead they're people who have Bored Apes as profile pictures, just random Twitter people that, I don't know, cry about random stuff sometimes and have no idea about the clue about the vision. And that's, that's the difficulty. Like we as a community really need to focus on achieving the goals that we want to achieve.
Yeah, and I want to ask a question based on everything you just said, because I kind of feel sorry for you in a way, because like you made it so easy, to create like NFTs. Like, how must that feel, that you created a tool, and you don't see people kind of like using it the way you kind of envisioned in the beginning. Right now it's all about profile pictures, apes and derivative of apes, and just people just thinking that's all like blockchain is. But we know it's much more than that. Like, how do you balance that, as the creator of NFT Maker?
Yeah, I think it's okay, because I see the good things that are being created with NFT Maker, and I see the like more boring things, in my opinion. And I personally try to push, the whole space into a certain direction. Like I personally, I'm not super deep into most of the NFT communities and stuff. I'm a computer scientist. I see NFTs as infrastructure. I want to see NFTs being used to power decentralized Spotifys and power, I don't know, financial tools and all this interesting stuff, and be used without the user even knowing that they're interacting with NFTs. And I'm trying to push towards that direction. And I think that is the best thing I can do. That's just providing the tools to everyone to make whatever they like, and then using the tools myself to build what I think should be done with those tools. And that is kind of the same thing for Charles, right? I mean, Charles is essentially building Cardano because he wants to build products for people in Africa and wants to give them tools to participate in this global financial ecosystem. And everything around that might be nice, but it's not really why he built Cardano. And yeah, and I think that's all you can do. And you never know like what your creation will be used for. It's the same with even the internet. You know, when Tim Berners-Lee created the World Wide Web, he definitely didn't think that the World Wide Web would be used mostly for memes and cat pictures and stuff like that, and would have such a power and then influence stocks because Elon Musk is tweeting about some random shit. So
right.
Like that wasn't his intention, right? So and still to use it for that. And I think it's fine. I think we need to be fine with that. And we, in the end, we want to make it accessible. So we have to live with what the people actually do with this accessible system then.
I think that you have to, when you create something, you have to do the idea of embrace the suck, embrace the fact that things are going to go wrong. Things are not going to work the way you want them to. And also you kind of have to divorce yourself from the platonic ideal, because the platonic ideal is exactly that. It is not the scenario you're going to walk away with, because human beings are still human beings. And that it could be a great and wonderful thing. Like cat memes are awesome. And it also allows for people across 5 different time zones basically to have a conversation with each other and shoot it out to the world, to have other people listen and compare, like what we're doing here now. And I think that the more we release ourselves from trying to stick, a rigid idea feels antithetical to what NFTs and what crypto can be, or what the internet can be. There's an idea of freedom of creation, freedom of thought, freedom of idea, and that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be consequences. I think that if you do something to harm the world at large or harm others, there are consequences. But the ability to create a Cardano, the ability to do these things to where we can supply people across the world who do not have bank accounts. And Nathan, you probably have that number memorized from presentations we were preparing for NFT NYC, but there are hundreds of millions of people across the world who don't even have a basic bank account, let alone the ability to do something. And I think one of the real tenets of Cardano is to develop, as you said, with the 10,000 papers and just the idea behind what Hoskinson is doing, the ability to try to afford these people the chance to have some attainable, sustainable currency, or have the ability to show that they are actually a person. They have an identity in this world, because, you know, IDs don't exist some places, or proof of a birth certificate or documentation. I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and his family comes from an island where up until the last 40 to 50 years, there was no electricity. There was no record keeping. There was no, you didn't know what the age of your grandpa or your great grandpa was. So how do you, like, as we evolve into modernity, these things have to happen, and they need to happen at an accelerated rate. But the faster you go, the less control you have. And I think that's also going back to the idea of immediacy that we were talking about of other blockchains against Cardano. You have to sacrifice one or the other, at least at this point in the evolution of technology. Like the initial Etzel wasn't going to be a fuel efficient vehicle that can get you from New York to Philadelphia in under 3 hours. That just wasn't going to happen at the advent of the motor vehicle. And I think we're still at that stage when it comes to this type of technology, but the groundwork is there.
Exactly.
Wow, that was that was well said, Matt.
Yeah, exactly.
That's powerful stuff.
For a crypto newbie, that was incredible. I just wanted to kind of further expand upon that, in that, you know, Patrick, I agree so much with what you've been saying. And honestly, I think that this bear market is great for Cardano, because I think that of all, Charles Hoskinson was saying the bear market is when you don't have to deal with all this hype and all this nonsense. You can actually focus on building things. And it seems like that's what you're doing. But when people like tell me, they say like, oh no, like Cardano is at $3 and now it's down to 50 cents. I say, yeah, like the price can change, but the utility of the project hasn't changed. They're still launching the digital ID services in Ethiopia. It still only takes a minute or two for me to send NFTs and they're native as the assets, and the prices are low. Like nothing's changed except your fiat equivalent to what you were going to do trading as a financial asset, which it's not really, it's not really its main purpose. It's an alternate, it's a ancillary purpose. But I don't know. I'm just I think we're actually in a really good spot with Cardano now, because there's a cheap entry point if you want to buy some tokens. Once you buy some tokens, you can actually start doing the cool stuff. You could use NFT Maker, start minting your own stuff. And I'm telling you, that's what hooked me, is once you're actually in the system and you use it and you see how cool it is, it's like going from walking everywhere to driving a car, and you're just like, wow, a car is cool technology. And you're like, yeah, you haven't heard about this? It's just amazing. But I wanted to try and segue to a question that we had for you, where maybe you've already answered this in a roundabout way, but maybe you haven't. And that is, we've been touching upon like people that don't have bank accounts, people that don't have identities. There's so many use cases for Cardano in the world, but you personally, like, why do you think that NFTs, because you're a computer scientist, why do you think NFTs are so necessary in the world now? And what is their greatest use case to you?
Yeah, so actually, before I answer the question, let me circle back to the bear market thing, because I think that's very interesting. And I do agree with you in some aspects, because I do think, yeah, finally, not so much noise. Like, you don't have to care about the hype. You can just sit down and build. But I think what a lot of people are missing, and that's mostly coming from just investor perspective, in a way, is that if the bear market takes too long, it is very hurtful for the companies building on the cryptocurrencies. Like, obviously, we as NFT maker, even, we have way less liquidity now than ever before, and we have a lot of costs, and we want to scale up as quickly as possible to be able to build better tools. But because of this bear market, we have to reduce that. And a lot of projects are going to die in the bear market, and a lot of projects are simply not going to make it or even get started because of the bear market. And now a lot of projects have to look for outside funding. Like, we are looking for investors, and we're talking with them, not necessarily because we can't afford it at the moment, but because we want to grow and be bigger and build bigger and better projects, right? And I think that's something that is often overlooked, like in this whole, I don't care about the price sentiment. Like, I also I used to not care about the price, but then I started the company. Now I'm responsible for over 20 people. Suddenly I do care about the price a little bit.
Sure.
So yeah, but just wanted to put that out there. But besides that, so to answer your question, I think, as I mentioned, NFTs are infrastructure. In the end, NFTs are just a token, right? They're just a token and a proof of ownership. And you can move that proof very easily. So you make this whole trading aspect more efficient and most importantly, trustless, which is great, because you can remove all the intermediaries. You can remove essentially Amazon, you can remove eBay, you can remove all these different platforms through blockchains, and not only through NFTs, but also through other blockchain tools, and build something which is trustless, and where you don't have to have one of these middlemen in between. And to me, I think the whole aspect of like digital identity, and especially connecting that with NFTs and connecting your kind of credentials and what you have achieved in your life with NFTs in a secure and private way, I think that's the most interesting part, because that is really a killer use case. And if we can move the whole world towards storing identity and storing credentials in people's wallets and storing the proof of that on the blockchain, then that would be huge, because you can suddenly say, okay, I can prove that I do have this certificate. I can prove that I have this and this. I can prove that I own also maybe this piece of land or this house and all this kind of stuff. That is what I'm really looking forward to. it's also the most difficult one to achieve, but I think we are getting there slowly but surely.
And that's one thing people often overlook when it comes to Cardano. That Cardano, like Charles and the team, the entire team, they're creating something that's actually going to have real world impact. You know, a lot of people like in crypto just, oh, I want this new shiny object, I want this DeFi, I want this APY, I want this Bored Ape, or I want this, all this stuff. All that stuff doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Like there are people hurting in the world right now. They don't care about your DeFi, your money Lego, you know, all that stuff. They don't care about that stuff. You know, like identity, you know, access to financial, you know, basically financial inclusion. You know, a lot of people, like Matt was saying, like don't even have access to bank accounts. And I think that is something that Charles is really focused on. And that's why you see, like, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but Charles is starting to become more like a thought leader in the global stage. Like they recently was invited to Congress, like about crypto regulations. I don't see a lot of like blockchain like founders going to those types of things, but Charles is starting to get the respect. Like all these people, you can say all you want, but we want to listen to this guy because I think he's really building something here. And that's one thing I really like about like Cardano. When you just get rid of all the noise, like you see that there's something here that he's building that can, those people in the current, you know, world of those current leaders, they don't have the answers. They don't know how to do these things. But this guy here and his company and the creators and the people in the ecosystem, like you, Patrick, like they're building the solution to what we need to solve this world problem. And I think that's something people often overlook when it comes to Cardano.
I agree. And Charles is probably the most important leader in crypto in general, at this point, at least.
There was something in what we were talking about, Patrick, when you were talking about building something like this and trying to figure things out. You are at the moment the CEO of something. You are the creator of something. You have employees to answer to. And when we were talking about Charles Hoskinson and we're talking about him becoming a thought leader, there's a lot of pressure that comes on there. And there's a lot of pressure in running a business and running it in something that is predicated on so much uncertainty, and there's so little control over what you can actually do to stabilize a market. How much of that pressure affects what you do and affects what you think is best for the space, the industry, and for your employees? Like, what's that thought process like? Because it's admirable to be someone in the space who's looking to bring out the platonic ideal, but there's got to be a lot of hard asks you make of yourself, and then that trickles down to your employees.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difficult part about it, this balancing act. And I think that's for a lot of startup founders in general, not only in crypto, but they always have to think about, where do I want to see the world? Where do I want to lead the world into? And what do I want to contribute basically to this vision? And then also think about, okay, how can I make this profitable? How can I build something that actually is being used, that people actually pay for, and kind of be responsible towards my employees and be responsible towards me as a person as well, honestly. So so you kind of have to balance that. And I have to say, obviously, the number one priority is always, as a company, to make sure that everyone is getting paid and that you build products which are being used and that people actually want and that you can make a profit of. But I do so, and basically I figure out, okay, how can I use this? How can I build something which makes sense in the long term, which really makes sense towards, you know, enabling everyone, which makes things more accessible and which empowers people in a way. And you have to think about it. Like it's not a clear thing, but yeah, at least most people in Cardano are still focused more than on most other chains towards this idealism in a way. And that's what I really love. And on Cardano, what you can also see is that there are a lot of like these founders, or not even founders, but like builders that are not interested in the money at all and are just building tools themselves without having the goal of building a big company or so, like Alessandro, who made the very first NFTs on Cardano. He doesn't want to lead a company. He doesn't want to become a billionaire or something like that. He just wants to build tools and advance the ecosystem towards the vision that he has for it. And that's really admirable. And everyone is kind of trying to do that. Some successful, some not so much, but yeah, that's what I like about it as well.
For every Edison, there is a Tesla.
I mean, well, they were both very important. So that's the thing.
Nathan, you had a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, Patrick, you're right. And, thank you for like giving me the constructive feedback of like, hey, the bear market is good for a lot of reasons, but it's not so good when you're a company founder. Cause you're right. I don't have that perspective, right? I've only got a team of 2 people right now, and I already find that complex to manage. So nonetheless 20. So yeah, I do feel your pain there. I was also thinking it's kind of analogous to, even though there aren't a lot of public companies that have Bitcoin on their balance sheet right now, if you had it on your balance sheet and you were borrowing against it or whatever, and you were using that, hopefully not for operating expenses, you'd be pretty underwater right now. And Michael Saylor seems to be the best example of that right now. But if you believe in Bitcoin over the long term, it should be fine. But I was going to get at that. Yeah, even in the bear market, you do have these concerns. It certainly must be hard to lead a company and continue to get on your mission of build products that people actually use, make sure that your employees are safe, happy, and healthy. But I was kind of gonna get at, we haven't even talked about this. It's not all bad, right? You've got this collaboration with Martin Lawrence going on. We haven't even touched on that. I think that's fascinating. I'd love to know more about that, or if anybody has any questions to jump in on that. That's a positive that's come out. Maybe that was a little bit before the bear market, but I assume that that's still going on. There's still stuff happening with that.
Yeah. It was way more negative or it's actually way more positive than I made it sound. Like in general, things are going amazing. Like I'm so glad we are building amazing tools. We have amazing partnerships. Everything is going in the right direction, for NFT Maker, but also for Cardano. And the Martin Lawrence thing was very interesting. Like, was my first real drop, with a celebrity like that, and my first real interaction with him. And I got to meet him in real life, and we had like this amazing event, this red carpet event with like a screening of his reunion show. And actually, the NFTs that we dropped allowed for access to this event, so they were kind of tickets in a way, which I think was really cool. And just working with them was very interesting. I learned a lot. Hollywood is weird when I say that. There are a lot of moving things in the background that you don't really see if you are not involved, like PR teams and so on. But yeah, the good thing with this collaboration was that essentially we had a lot of creative freedom as NFT Maker. So we consciously decided, okay, we're only going to do 30 NFTs. They're going to be one-of-ones, high quality art. We're not just here for just making a quick buck, but instead we want to do it small and introduce Martin into the space, get him to learn about all of this, get him to see the process and so on. And then have these NFTs be connected to real use case, which was, the entry to the event, to the red carpet show. And on top of that, we even brought in 5 artists from the Cardano scene and 5 artists from outside the Cardano scene. So we also gave them some opportunity for exposure and connecting their name to Martin Lawrence and stuff like that. So I think the drop and the project itself was amazing. And now that it worked so well and Martin is happy, his team is happy, we can basically take the next step and figure out, okay, what else can we do and bring to the table?
Well, and that's so interesting. And I just wanted a quick follow-up at that of like, okay, I'm not huge into celebrity culture. I knew who Martin Lawrence was because he's been big in America, since I was a little kid. But I don't think that I ever really watched Martin or things like that. I would probably see him in movies. But it's so interesting that Martin Lawrence would be interested in Cardano specifically. He could have chosen Solana. I'm sure there were like lots of people courting him to do NFT crypto stuff. And so like, you may not be able to talk about this, and that's okay if you aren't. I'm just interested, like, did Martin Lawrence have to be convinced to use Cardano? Was he already tending towards Cardano? Like, what is because there's a disconnect between people that are popular celebrities and knowing about technologies or avenues that they should go down?
I think he was convinced by the Snoop Dogg drop with the Clay Nation. I think that was really what pulled the trigger, because yeah, people trust Snoop Dogg, and if Snoop Dogg, I don't know if they've spoken about it or not, but I know they know each other, so maybe they have. And you know, if you see someone you like and respect do something and he's happy with that drop, then you know, it's kind of an obvious next step. And essentially then Martin got into contact with IOG, and then IOG said, okay, here, let's bring him to NFT Maker. So that's kind of how we got into contact with him. So it was very interesting, and we didn't have to convince him at all. Like, once they met us and we showed them the team and we spoke about our plans and so on, they were on board immediately. They were extremely happy with what we presented them, and also that we basically went this journey with them and educated them on the way, because of course those people are not NFT experts, so they rely on us, and we need to explain all the things to them. And that was very important, just educating Martin and his team about the possibilities of NFTs in general.
I want to ask a question real quick. I was just did you, when you got to meet like Martin, like in real life, did you get to also meet Gina on like the crew from the show? Or did you just meet Martin?
So she was there. I think they were all there actually, but I did not meet her. Like, I didn't speak to her. I saw her, but I didn't speak to her.
Man,
Gina.
Man, you've made it. You've made it. Like, you saw Gina. You saw what's the other lady's name? Like the one. What's the name?
I know exactly who you're talking about. I can't remember her name on the show, but
it's Tichina Arnold or something like that.
Tisha Arnold. Yeah, Tisha Arnold.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
She was
there. Oh my god.
Yeah, they were all there. I think even for some short period of time, I think even Kevin Hart was there.
Nice.
Because at some point, like, all the people flocked towards like one corner of the event, and I heard like rumors, oh, Kevin Hart is here and stuff like that. But I don't know if it's true, because I simply haven't seen him because it was too crowded.
Right.
But yeah, it was incredible. And honestly, it's kind of weird, but in Europe, actually, I don't think that the Martin show ever really aired on TV. It's not in Germany. Yeah, I wasn't as familiar with Martin Lawrence as you might have been. And in Germany, if I talk to people and I say, oh, I'm partnering with Martin Lawrence, most of them don't immediately know who I'm talking about. And then I go to the US and I say, you know, I had to buy the suit before going to the event, and I said them, and the guy asked me, okay, why are you buying a suit? And I told him, yeah, I'm going to a Martin Lawrence event, and he was like, oh, you're going to meet Martin Lawrence? That's amazing and stuff like that. So,
he's like an icon, like oh, yeah. And, Pam, her name is Pam.
Yes.
Pam, yeah.
Also, he was in the Bad Boys movies. Those made like $1 trillion. How do you not know that?
No, everyone knows him, but most of the time I kind of had to, like, to some people like my mom and stuff, I had to say, you know, Bad Boys, but not Will Smith, the other guy.
Oh man, speaking about Will Smith, who knows? Like, I mean, hey, we've had Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube actually came to the Consensus event at the Clay Nations, I think after party or something like that.
It wasn't the Clay Nations after party, it was the IOG after party.
IOG after party, yeah, okay. I know Snoop Dogg was not Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube was there. Yeah. The guy from Lord of the Rings.
Frodo was there.
Frodo was there.
Frodo was DJ. It was amazing. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Elijah.
And like, hey, I'm not gonna be surprised if we see Will Smith like show up, because you know the whole Bad Boys thing. They might want to do an NFT drop. Hey, like Cardano. I mean, it's just fascinating to see a lot of people starting to, you know. I mean, just imagine if this was another ecosystem, it's gonna be everywhere. But I mean, Cardano is like making waves recently.
It is.
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah, it's great, and just having like these two big celebrities in there. With Snoop Dogg and with Martin, I think that's like the precedent that we needed to get more people on board. And then also we have, of course, Good Charlotte and many other celebrities that have already done stuff on Cardano. But I feel like it's a storm brewing, and there's just so much more to come in this area, particularly, I would say.
Well, that means that we're going to have you on again, Patrick. I'm sorry, but we're going to have to keep bringing you on to talk about Cardanos and NFTs. And thank you so much. We're going to wrap this one up, but I feel like we're going to have a lot more to talk about in a couple of weeks when we have you back on, Patrick. You could find Patrick on the Twitter machine at PadierFind. That's PADIER Find. That's FIND. And you can find more information about NFT Maker at nftmaker.io. You can follow NFT Maker on Twitter at nftmaker.io. All one combination of letters. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us on NFT 101 on the BitMart BrainTrust. Would you like to come back?
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. So let's do it again.
Yeah, exactly. We loved it, Patrick. We know that your time is valuable and that we only technically booked you for 30 minutes. So the fact that we've got you here for an hour and it's good and you don't hate us, we're just thrilled about that.
Oh, I hate all of you.
That's what happens when we assume.
Yeah, man. But Patrick, it's been fun, like, you know, having you come to the BitMart podcast. Obviously, like I said, huge fan of your work, and I'll be in touch, you know, just to talk about, you know, Cardano, you know, and NFT in general. Yeah, we would definitely love to have you, you know, come back, you know, some other time, maybe whenever you release a new feature, because I know you guys released the new feature like not too long ago about like an airdrop that you can do now with NFT Maker. Like, you guys are constantly building stuff. So yeah, I would definitely like to have you come back and talk more about, you know, NFT Maker and just the industry in general.
Sounds perfect.
All right, Patrick, Kelechi, and Nathan, thank you as always for making me seem a lot smarter than I am about the world of NFTs. You can follow Kelechi and Nathan on Twitter by clicking the link in the description below, whether you're listening to the audio or video. Also, follow Patrick on Twitter. The man's a genius, for God's sake. And you can follow me on Twitter. You do the thing below. But this has been the BitMart BrainTrust. We'll be back next week with another brand new episode. Will we have a guest? Will I be crying? We don't know. The only way to find out is by commenting, and subscribing on YouTube, and also wherever you get audio. If you just can't stand looking at my face, I get it. But be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, and also smash that like button, ring the notification bell. We'll see you back here next time on the BitMart BrainTrust.
Hey, Nathan here from BitMart. Hope you liked that conversation. I know that I always do. It's great learning more about crypto and kind of putting a face behind all the technical jargon. But that's not the last thing we have to do. We've got to get some legal stuff out of the way, and so here it goes. All opinions and actions expressed and undertaken by the hosts and guests are individual opinions and actions and do not reflect the views and actions of BitMart. BitMart does not guarantee the accuracy, applicability, reliability, integrity, performance, completeness, or appropriateness of this content. The value of digital currencies can go up or down, and there can be a substantial risk in buying, selling, holding, or investing in digital currencies. You should carefully consider whether trading or holding digital currencies is suitable for you based on your personal investment objectives, financial circumstances, and risk tolerance. BitMart does not provide investment, tax, or legal advice. Use of BitMart services is entirely at your own risk.